What's going on, guys? And welcome back to another episode of Stereotherapy. I'm your host, Lisa, and of course, we've got Justine right here with me. If you're new here, this is the show that showcases the importance of music and mental health. Remember, if you want to help support our little show, you can do so by leaving a positive rating or a review on any app you are currently listening to this right now. We really just appreciate it, and so many of you cannot talk today have done that, and we appreciate that, and it means a lot. You can also hit the follow button and subscribe to our show so you never miss a new episode. Remember, they go up every Tuesday. All right, now, now that that's out of the way, that's always like something to get through. And Justine is the only one that knows, like, to get through that each time, the challenge it is. Today, we are celebrating and we are back celebrating some of our favorite records that are turning 20 this year. We're so excited about these, just like the last one. And I know I'm just going to say it. There's going to be some we don't cover just because I feel like we would have so many episodes. So if there is one that we don't cover, it doesn't mean that it wasn't great, that we don't like it. It didn't blend well, whatever the reason. Like if you want to talk about it, just message us because I would love to talk. We both would love to talk music. But Justine, how are you doing on this lovely day? I didn't even know what month it is. I feel like my brain's been going
It's like
crazy.
you just couldn't
February.
remember what day it was or what month it was just then. Um,
Yep. Nope.
I'm doing okay. I can't remember if I mentioned on our last episode that I got a diagnosis of POTS syndrome.
I don't know. I don't think you did.
I don't know if I did. I can't remember, but I got diagnosed with POTS syndrome, which I can't remember what it stands for because there's like a some big words, but it has to do with the
Yeah.
heart and the way the heart works and circulates, and there's lots of palpitations and like high heart rates and stuff. And yeah, I've been having kind of struggling with that the last week or so. I've been having a lot of episodes and just trying to do anything around the house, but that's just kind of my life now. And but I have the diagnosis, which feels good because if you're anybody that deals with any kind of chronic illness and you don't have an like a definitive diagnosis, it just makes it feel so much worse and defeating if you don't have that title to know what it is.
Mm-hmm.
So now I'm just trying to figure out how to navigate life and deal with what I'm dealing with. I'm gonna look into getting a mobility aid, so whenever I go out to anything, like I'm going to see Anthony Green when
Oh
he
my
comes
God.
to
I'm so
Chicago,
jealous.
which I'm so excited for. So I'm gonna try to get myself a walker with a seat before that happens. So that way when I go up there, I'm not getting myself into the point where I could faint or because that's
Mhm.
so when I went to Riot Fest, I did not have a mobility aid at the time, and I had to keep sitting on the ground, and the ground would be gross sometimes where we
Oh,
were, and
100% if you've ever been to Riot Fest. It's always
yeah,
muddy as hell. It's whatever. It's part of the fun of that.
and
But
like,
for someone like you, it's not
well,
fun. That sucks.
yeah, and like whenever I had to at the end of the night, we were in this really bad area, but I couldn't stand anymore. My legs were in so much pain. I was so exhausted that I had to sit on this nasty like concrete area while we were waiting forever for a taxi. So I'm like, I now I'm gonna just start advocating for myself because it's like it's one of those things where like am I overdoing what I think is going on with me? Is it going to be stupid if I have a mobility aid? It's not. It's I'm advocating for myself. I'm trying to be okay and prepared with my body and how it works now. And a lot of people with POT syndrome do have walkers or canes or like even sometimes scooters for when that happens, when they need to have a seat and there's not any seated kind of areas. So yeah, that's kind of what my life's been.
I'm so glad you got that diagnosis. And I think too, it's just such a thing. Like even me, when I go hopefully to get some of my diagnosis, I'm gonna be like, ooh, I remember when I got the PCOS one and I was just like, yeah, see, like I
Yeah,
knew there was a lot of stuff. And that's kind of like me
yeah,
too. Like lately, I've been dealing with a lot of that and having some flare ups. But like we were kind of talking too before we were recording. Come on, get with it. I apologize if I'm not with it because, like, I'm just coming down from a horrible cold, and that's why I sound a little bit if I don't. Justine says I sound good, so I'm going with it. But it just is I mean, going through that and, like, one thing for me is, like, low impact and getting back to that. So, like, lifting weights has been huge for me. And I know this isn't a podcast about that, but, like, if you are someone that suffers with something like that, like PCOS, like, literally, like, G was like, "I can show you deadlifts, like, how to properly do them. You do a couple of those a day." And I'm telling you, like, I feel good and I'm noticing things because, like, that's I was going through that, and then, like, I recently had my birthday, and that's always a weird thing, and I'm not bringing it up to get, like, oh, a happy birthday from anyone, but, like, just, like, that birthdays for me are always tough for a lot of reasons, and, like, one of them is, like, when you get older and your
It's
past
different.
it hits different, and you're
Mhm.
constantly, like, comparing yourself to, like, what you haven't accomplished yet and where you're at and everybody around you accomplishing things, and even if those aren't things you necessarily want, right? Like, whether it's a kids or a marriage or a career, but it's just such a comparison thing, and so, like, this year I really took it where I was like, no, you're gonna be really proud of yourself for everything you've done so far, where you're at, and maybe you're just that as cheesy as it sounds, is like you're not it's not your time yet. And like just be proud of yourself for everything you've done, that you're still here, that I mean, we have such a cool podcast, right? Like I could look and say, oh my god, like, I didn't do th I'm not a mom, or I'm not this, or I'm not that. But, like, this past year specifically, I accomplished so
Mhm.
much shit, so I was like, "I'm gonna
Yeah.
celebrate that, and I want to celebrate that." So it's kind of the first year, so I guess anyone listening to you that has a hard time, like, as cheesy as it is, celebrate whatever wins you have because it's tough, the comparison game, and literally was like, you know what? No. No, I'm gonna celebrate my damn self because I love my damn self, and I'm just gonna do it. I don't give a shit. Like, this is the first year where I'm like, "Yes." But yeah, and then I got sick, and then I lost my voice, and then I don't know, all hell broke loose. But, um, we're here, and I'm really excited about doing this episode too and getting it going, and we just have so much going on too with this podcast. So, like, it just is a really exciting time and a time just, like, I'm grateful for that anyone listens to this thing.
I
I
know
never thought anyone would listen to it.
it's one of those things because like we both have been struggling with that definitely within the last year of the
Yeah.
whole like I'm not where everybody else is our age
Mhm.
and like we both deal with health stuff but definitely me more more than you when it comes to health
Mhm.
but like we both struggle with that a lot where we are like we're not at where we're supposed to be but yet we found this podcast to do together
Yeah.
and it's going way better than we expected
Yes. When we
to.
recorded that first Circa episode, I was like, "Alright," because I had to relaunch, obviously, right? So already I
Yeah.
was like, shit, if I don't get this right, I'm done." Like, I'm done because just mentally and everything. And then the fact that people, like, have been really excited about it, and I know there's a couple people that I know listen every week and, like, they support it, and you don't even know how much that means, and the fact that we're 2 women too. I know I say it all the time, but, like, 100%, the fact that, like, I know there are dudes out there that listen to this thing, and
Mhm.
shout out to you because, like shout out to the ladies too, but, like, it's tough, and, yeah, so I feel like you tuned into this and you're like, "Wait, are they talking music?" We are, but, like, it's important to say it's
No, it's
important.
important to mention that
It's
too, because
it's so important.
like, even with me, like, doing the podcast, there was a certain amount of fear because of my ex and, like, could there be repercussions? And I have been most vocal and, like, probably the most advocate I have ever been when it comes
Mhm.
to the podcast, and so I'm grateful for everybody that has listened and supported and 'cause it was I even Lisa, we were both kinda scared about that at first, and,
Yeah.
um, so it means a lot because, like, it means that like, I've seen something where it was like a quote of something like, "If I went all through all that bad and
Mhm.
nothing good came out of it, then
A
what did I suffer for?" So it's like,
100%.
for me to be able to use my voice on this podcast has been the best thing that's happened to me ever. Not plus being able to have this with Lisa, who is the best friend I could have ever asked for. So
Oh, just see, you're making me
it's true.
I know, it's so true, and I say the same thing, like, I at the same time, it sucked I had to relaunch this thing, but at the same time, I'm glad I did, and that I just really was like, "Alright," like, for whatever reason, like, again, like, that shit was supposed to happen so that way, like, you could be on this because you brought so much, whether it was your autism diagnosis or you being open about that, and I'm not trying to name drop, but, like, Anthony Green saying that what you do to people and how you have impacted people and helped people, he's 100% right because well, for anyone knowing, I got Justine a freaking was a cameo. I got her a cameo for Christmas,
Yeah.
alright? But yeah, but in it and, like, him saying that, I was like, 100%, like, you
Which
do.
made me cry, by the way. And I
I
was
was
at work at the time.
I know, I was like, "I gotta get her this cameo, I
Yeah.
gotta do it because we love him," and yeah, just anyway, no one needs to hear that again, but I don't know, he's just amazing and
What
incredible,
nobody realized when they started this episode today is that we were gonna make it, like, this very touching, like,
right.
sad opening,
Listen,
but
but perfect segue into these records because that is the era. I'm really looking forward to diving back into these records we didn't cover. Yeah, I'm excited because the very first one that we're gonna go into, and I'm gonna let and I know, Justine, this was one you brought up right away too when I gave you the list. But we're talking
yeah.
from first to last. Dear Diary, my teen angst has a body count, which I mean, that title like that, it's just you can't get any better than that back in the day, 2004. So, Justine, I want you to give it to us. So what about this record stood out? Any memories with this one? Highlight tracks? Whatever with this one, because this was a favorite. Whenever I posted a reel, this was a favorite.
Really? That's so funny.
I
I guess,
know, right? Like, no disrespect.
like,
This
yeah,
wasn't
no
Underoath,
disrespect to
to be
anybody else
fair.
that, like, prefers to last. It's just it's not one that I saw circulated a lot around me. I was one of the few, at least, where I was from that liked it. But anyways, so I am a huge Winona Ryder fan, okay? And I always loved the movie Heathers,
Mhm.
and there's the quote, "Dear Diary, my teen angst bullshit now has a body count."
No,
And
wait,
yeah,
wait a
and
second. Oh my
no,
god.
for sure. And I'm really curious if that's why they named the album that, or it just happened to be a huge coincidence.
Hang on, I'm
But
pulling this while you're talking. I'm gonna
yeah,
listen, but I'm gonna try and pull this up. Go ahead.
but I personally love that if that was intentional. So I loved this album as somebody who is and was full of that teenage angst and needing an outlet while looking into genres that I didn't really know anybody that was personally into it. My favorite tracks were Note to Self, Secrets Don't Make Friends, because I was a kid who got bullied and I also struggled keeping and making friends a lot. So the lyrics in that one just really struck a chord. And I also really loved Ride the Wings of Pestilence,
Yes.
which is so dark and like murderous in the lyrics. And what can I say other than I've always really been into gore and horror movies. So I really loved that one a lot. Also, when people got really into Skrillex, I kept insisting, no, that's Sunny Moore.
Oh, 100%.
And
I was the same exact way.
yeah, and I'd be like, I liked him better as a hardcore kid, mainly just to be annoying, but
No, 100%. I was that kid too. Shit, I can't find it. Whatever. I'll look and I'm gonna find out. Anybody else know? But no, I was the same way and still because to me the study more that I knew was from first to last. But amazing as Skrillex. Like holy shit, what he's done with that genre and just doing his thing and he's so talented and I love what he's doing. It's not my first obviously genre I would pick, but I respect. And literally, I had to go back to this one because honestly, the first one that popped out to me always was Emily because the song was
yeah.
everything back then. Whether you were in a relationship, you were lusting after anyone, a crush, whatever. Like it's just this song was everywhere and I loved Emily. But I feel like this record is more than that song, because I feel like some people would just know them from Emily, or at least around
No, I
me,
agree.
and it was
Yeah.
like, there's more, like, you just named all those, like, they just are so incredible, and I just think that From First to Last made me much like Underoath, which we'll talk about, and this is gonna sound so silly, but, like, that I was tough, me and my angsty self, and I know someone listening to that may be like, that's cringe," but I don't care. You gotta remember the time we were in back then, being
Yeah.
a girl, listening to this type of music, and I remember meeting Sonny back in the day. It was at the Fall Out Boy tour he did, I think it was All American Rejects too, and, I ended up driving to Pittsburgh for a tour too because, like, I was doing stuff with, like, the Fall Out Boy, like, street team and shit, so I drove all the way to fucking Pittsburgh and, it was a flyaway, it was all this shit, but, like, it was so cool because we got to see the tour too, and I remember telling Sonny, like, "Oh, I'm gonna see you in Pittsburgh this weekend," and he's like, "What?" Like, 'cause I was in Chicago at the time, and he was so kind, and it was just I remember seeing how young he was, and I think some people forget how young Sonny Moore was when in those From First to Last days, and the impact and just the vocals and just that life, like, I couldn't imagine being that young, but just such an important band for so many reasons. Again, I'm with you with, Ride the Wings of Pestilence, if I can even say that right, but that one, I was always Crazy Live, and I
Mhm.
just that one, Emily, Populous and 2, like, there are just so many things that I just it's just such a great record, and I think that they really did pave the way for a lot of bands to come as far as the genre with this record, and I think that with From First to Last, they truly did, because without them, I don't know, some of these other bands, like, today, would we have? I don't know, because Sonny Moore and, I know they've talked about maybe doing some, one-off shows here and there. I know they did, like, one thing once, one performance. I would love to see it. That's on my bucket list, like, let's go 2024. I don't think
Oh,
they were
I'd love that.
I don't think they were asked from for when we were young, which is pretty weird.
That is
Um,
really weird.
no
That would be
hate,
such a good show for them to
but
play.
this band is so important to that, and I would love to hear anyone's thoughts on From First to Last. Such an important band, kind as hell dudes. Literally, I can say that, like, Sonny Moore took so much time, same with Matt Good. I loved this record, I really did, but I had to go back, but I'm gonna go with obviously, I mean, if you look at this episode, you know what albums we're talking about, but whatever, maybe you just clicked on it. They're Only Chasing Safety from Underoath, and honestly, I know there are people that are gonna say, "Don't you have an episode on Underoath?" Yes, but this is just highlighting this record, and I remember just loving Under Oath, but honestly, again, like, it was From First to Last that got me into music like this, like I just said, and, like, I heard this record and immediately the cover took me and just grabbed me, and it started my love for Under Oath. I know there were releases before, like The Changing of Times, but honestly, it was this one that made me, like, obsessed with Under Oath, and just again, like, as a girl, I felt, like, tough. Not that I needed to, but, like, growing up in hardcore shows and my friends' bands, like, this record was playing everywhere, and I think I just instantly was like, "This is different. This is not on the radio. This is, like, everything to me." And I just think that I'm certain that this record was that gateway into so much more heavier stuff at the time. For anyone wanting something, again, I guess harder, but it was that perfect balance of somewhere in the middle. And I think this record absolutely put Under Oath on the map in this era, along with Define the Great Line that came after. And then my favorite Under Oath record they've ever done. No, we're not talking about that record, but I have to bring it up because I just think it's so good. But again, if you haven't heard our Under Oath episode, go back. I forget what number it is, but like go back because we really touch on important mental health topics in the band, and it was really cool to see that and have again this powerhouse of a male band talk about their mental health, and it I think so many could relate, but I think if you weren't a fan of this record, maybe you didn't like bands like this, and that's okay, like, I get it, it's not for everybody. I know people personally that don't like this record, they don't see what I see in it, that's alright, we all love different music, but I think we just have to appreciate what this record did for the genre scene at the time and how timeless this record truly was. I gotta talk about the tracks, like, Reinventing Your Exit, because there was no bigger song back then in 2004. I mean, I guess we could argue like I'm Not Okay if we really want to think about it. But I think for this genre, it was everything. And I just remember this video of the guy running, and I just was like, holy shit, this is for me. Down, set, go. Some will seek forgiveness, others escape. It was so different than any on this record, and I really enjoyed it. And I think it just really showed that so many in the genre that you don't have to be confined to specific songs or styles, and the people will still love it. It really just highlighted Aaron Gillespie. And if you haven't heard it, go listen to the Almost, because I'll leave the link. I know we're talking Underoath, but the Almost was Aaron Gillespie's side project. So, so good. Southern Weather. Go listen to it. Like, I'm telling you, like, it's just so, so good. And I don't care that that was off topic. I just love that record, and, like, listening back to this record, I was like, "Holy shit, I love the Almost." A Boy Brushed Red, Living in Black and White, and that's, like, something too, like, these track titles are always so long back in the day too.
It
Uh,
always was a big joke. How long could your song title be?
like, especially Fall Out Boy, right? Like,
Oh, yeah.
they did that, and, like, the opening of this track was just so, so good, and I think so many love this song too. It's Dangerous Business Walking Out Your Front Door. Again, where there's that whole part that it just dips and it's like drowning in my sleep. And if you know, you know. But like much like I said with Taking Back Sunday, sometimes in moments and songs they just grab you. And that was absolutely one for me. If you've ever seen this band live performing this song, it just is like, I don't know. It's an experience. And go to 2 minutes and 40 seconds. You know I've got you at the time. And you just see what I'm talking about. And it's for some reason, it just is, one of the best bands to ever do it. They still are. Mic drop. I'm done. Justine, what do you got on this record?
Oh my god. Uh, so, like I said back on the episode we did of theirs, I'm pretty sure I talked about it more in depth, but I didn't get into them back in the day. But I got a chance to go see them in concert in, like, oh, what, like, 2018-ish, whenever they released their that one last album, and,
Yeah, I
um and that's when I ended up going back to be prepared for the concert because I don't like going to concerts without knowing the songs.
mhm.
That's just me.
That's a real thing,
Um
I think.
Like, it weirds me out when I don't know the words, you know what I mean? Because that's what I do, I sing in concerts, so, like, if I don't know the words, I feel like the singer's gonna be staring at me just standing there, like,
Oh,
just,
that happened to
you
me
know,
once.
and I'm like it makes me feel weird, like, I have to interact in some way so they know I'm into it, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But, so I went back and then I got into the album, and it's such a good album, like, it hit really hard for a lot of people. I know you keep saying, like, a lot of people didn't, but
Yeah.
I knew a lot of kids that were really into Under Oath, and I do always remember that cover to this album. Even when I didn't get into them, I was like, "That's a pretty cool cover." You
Yeah.
got a girl in an oxygen mask. It's pretty cool. But if you were like me and you didn't get into it back in the day and you are into other stuff that, gets a little harder, I would suggest to go back and listen because sometimes these albums hit differently in different ages and points in your life. So I definitely suggest you go back and listen to it for sure.
100%. Like, it's funny you bring up about not knowing. One time I saw that tour, it was with Circus Survive and Dredge. The night before I saw the tour, and I went again in Chicago because they played in Milwaukee, so I went there. Dredge was on, and admittedly, I was tired as hell. Like, I was up late, I drove back to Chicago, waited in line all day. Dredge was on, and admittedly, I was sitting there with, like, my arm on my, like, head and, like, just having a rest, and I was paying attention. I think Dredge was wonderful, but I wasn't singing. I wasn't familiar with them, and I remember there was, like, a guitarist that purposely was, like, mimicking me. Like,
No,
he had his arm and he was like, "Look," I was like, "Oh my god." Like, so I'm with you in that, and, like, you wanna
yeah.
know because, yeah, that moment sucked for me. But no
Like,
disrespect, I get it. He was just watching someone in the front row, but, like, "What the fuck? Like, why aren't you excited?"
yeah.
So, yeah, I feel you in that, and it's gonna be a different type of record we're gonna go into, but it's an important one. It's one I really had to dive back into, but, I guess we gotta go. We gotta talk American Idiot by Green Day, which is wild to think that I didn't realize until I looked at the list. that was in the list, right? Like, I don't know, like, I just
Yeah.
felt like it came out so much later that, it didn't.
So here
And,
we are.
yeah, I know, here we are 20 years later,
Yeah.
Green Day, but I gotta know, like, for you, because I know you're such a big Green Day fan, so
Yeah.
for you, what about this record stands out?
So this album really shot them more so into the mainstream, I would say, than any other albums did at the time. And depending on the person, some people would probably say that this is the album that would consider them sellouts because this is what
Yep,
really shot them in the mainstream.
yeah,
But as much as people want to call them sellouts at the time, or even maybe now still, but as we know them, and with the upset of the live show recently, where they changed the lyrics to
yeah,
reflect current politics, it was always political because the main song was originally about George W. Bush. So I think they still, to me, have always stayed true to those roots where they are a political band. So I don't personally think that they sold out. I think they just happened to have gotten popular and they started resonating more with people. And people sometimes tend to take like popularity and change that into being a sellout, which I don't personally think that's what makes you a sellout.
no,
Um, but the concept of the album was always super cool, especially at the time, because they considered it a punk rock opera, and
yeah,
the album as a whole told a story as opposed to one song. That concept ended up getting completed by them because they ended up making it a play on Broadway, which
mhm,
I never saw it, but the
yeah, me
fact that
either.
it happened is pretty cool because for someone who has goals with their art, they definitely achieved what they set out for that particular work of art, which I think is really cool as somebody who tries to make art.
Oh,
Like, I
same
feel like you
here.
can appreciate that, you know what I mean? Like, they reached their end goal and they did it. I personally really love the songs She's a Rebel,
Mhm.
Boulevard of Broken Dreams, and of course, American Idiot, because it was one of the starts of me personally starting to rebel against capitalism. Like, it's like the seeds, you know? And you can laugh about that all you want, but this combined with me already questioning Bush and then getting into old school punk was the beginning of my leftist ideals, because we all have to start somewhere. So you
Mhm.
can laugh if you
Yeah.
want, but this is
No.
what really truly started me breaking out of, social constructs and everything.
No, and I'm sure you're not alone in that. Like, I think that this record and this time frame for Green Day really too showed me right, like, we didn't grow up with, like, The Clash. We didn't grow up with all these things. Like, I mean, maybe musically, but, like, the time,
Yes.
right? We for us, I think in this age, it was the really and obviously NoFX is another one, but, like, these
Yes, they are another
bands
one.
that grew up and you're like, "Wow, like, you can rebel, like, you don't have to think the same way your parents do, or you can, like you can think this way, or you can, like, speak up on this big stage,"
Yeah.
and I think Green Day represented that.
Also, as somebody from a very small town,
Mhm.
where I didn't, like, get to see a lot of, like, rebellion and stuff firsthand,
True,
I
yeah.
had to be the one that exposed everybody to it, like,
No,
you
100%.
know,
That
so
makes sense with you living where you did and
yeah,
growing up, and even now where you live, you know what I mean? Like, even now, like, your it's that kinda shapes you, right? Like, your
yeah,
environment, and, like, Green Day was your little gateway, and, like, to see you now where you're at, and, like, you always speak up on everything, and I think that's really important, and that's something I always admire too, that you are who you are, you don't care. You don't care, you're gonna say how you feel and what you believe in and stay with that, and but I have to say because I did find, to go back to from first to last, if I could say that 10 times fast, it was from that opening monologue, Justine, the record,
Oh, did you find it where they
I
said it
found it.
was?
Yep, they found it, it was take the title was taken from the
I knew
opening
it.
monologue of Heathers. So you were
I was
right.
like, "It had to," they just changed the wording a little bit.
So anyone that didn't know that for your next like emo bingo or emo trivia, use that. Maybe I'll host one. Who knows? But
You're welcome, everybody.
yeah, come on. No, but I just agree with you. And honestly, again, I haven't listened to this record probably since the time it came out, you know? Like I don't know. Like I not saying I didn't like it. I don't know. Like I just lost touch with it. Always respected it. But I saw this amazing interview a couple months back with Kayvon Kenny or Kevin Kenny, however you say it. He's done stuff for like MTV. He did stuff from like radio here in New York and stuff. But he was asking Billy Joe about when September ends. And when Billy was talking about how September it really the song came from how September always was a strange time and a downer month, and he couldn't really figure it out and why, and, I guess it just made sense because it was the month that he had lost his dad years ago, and it's also the month that feels a sense of loss because of September 11th, the loss of his father and just that loss of summer. As cheesy as that sounds, there's that whole shift in everything, and I think so many people make these damn memes about waking
They
Billy
do.
Joe up, and Billy has been open about, like, what this song is about and how he hates these damn memes because I just feel like hearing it from him in this interview was so touching to watch because while people, again, crack these jokes, Billy still feels that grief, and I think it's just so relatable to so many of us that have lost anyone in a particular month, time. I still get weird around May. Everybody's
Mhm.
excited around Memorial Day. Me, I get really down. That's when G had his accident that changed his
Yep.
life, our lives. I still get very like weird around May, and I'm like, fuck, May 20th
Yeah.
coming up. And so I can totally relate to Billy. And I think hearing
I
him say
feel
that,
like sorry, not to break you off, but I
no,
feel
you're
like
good.
people don't realize that people that have gone through trauma, it is called traumaversaries
Hmm.
when it's around a particular date. Whether you are recognizing it or not, you get triggered a lot
Hmm.
because of the certain traumaversaries. So, like, you have like G's anniversary date for me, it is around the month of February when it comes to Valentine's Day, because that was when I celebrated anniversaries with my ex, by which this February was very much like a really bad one. But
Yeah.
it's that is definitely a thing. And I don't think people that haven't I I personally think everybody's gone through a little bit of trauma, whether they admit it or not. But I think if people don't go to therapy and haven't been through a lot of trauma, they don't realize that's actually a very real thing.
Yeah, like, even you say Valentine's Day in a weird way was for me because I kinda opened up a little bit about it too, like, it's on a lower, like, I guess I wouldn't rate it as the same as, like, his accident, but, like, that was the
Yeah.
launch of this podcast originally was Valentine's Day.
Mhm.
I went through
Yeah.
a lot of shit, and, then to have a lot of things happen with this podcast the first time around, it was like, "Shit, this podcast would have been a year old. Damn, that would have been cool." And, like, it just like I said, I could relate to so much to Billy and how open he was about this, and I was like, "Damn," and he wrote this about, like, feeling that grief and, like, "Wake me up when it ends," and, like, I'm just like, I although it's May for me, I feel you 1,000%, and it just made me appreciate the song more, so I'm sure maybe somebody has heard of that, but I don't know, I watched it and I was
Yeah.
just like, "Holy shit, I need to go
And
listen to the
I'm
song again."
like, I'm not gonna lie, I participated in the memes. So
Oh,
like
so did
don't feel
I, right.
bad
Yeah.
if you
No.
did. Yeah, I kind of stopped after I learned that more, but I'm sure some people probably feel bad about it. I certainly did. But
No,
I
I
also
did.
am a big I also am a big memer, so, like, it's
Oh.
expected of me,
Oh, yes,
even if
she
it's
is.
inappropriate. Yeah, exactly.
I get my
So
TikToks, but, like, it I don't know, like, I just think this record was everywhere, and especially an anthem for so many, like you were talking about during that Bush era presidency,
mhm.
and it's just still shocking to me that when people get all mad, when they get political, but they always have been, and that's just been
Yeah,
sort of, I guess, I don't know, the punk thing to do, but
it
Green Day
is.
Green Day has always they've always walked that walk, whether you agree with them or not. I love to see a band at their level remain who they are,
Mhm.
true to themselves, on brand, whatever you want to say about them. you think it's annoying, you don't like it, it's not for you, that's cool, but I think it's really cool for them to have remained that way and stayed that way and continue to speak out. Again, whether you agree or not, they're speaking out, they're saying their
Yeah.
piece, and I respect that, and I guess, man, like, when I re-listened to this record, like, Boulevard of Broken Dreams, I feel this track just was another one that grabbed me, and I think we all sense I don't know, it's like that theme of this record. I don't know, I just love this song, and What's Her Name? I love this song. There is something about the drum
That's
beat
a
in
good
this
one too.
song that
Mhm.
grabbed this one, and I just think whether it's a long summer drive with the windows down, it just hits, and I don't know, like, I just think that I don't know what it is about this song, but it just completed this record in so many ways. It's one of the best closing tracks on a record, and I think we can all really relate, whether you were young or your age now, where maybe you came across someone and it's like, I don't know, like timing was off or whatever it was, and there's like that I don't know, like, you know what I'm saying, where it's like, what's her like, just I don't know. It's something that hit to me as a teen, and I just yeah, I love that song, and I think again, Green Day is a timeless band, timeless record, and I could be here all day with the impact of this band is had on my life and so many others. They probably were your gateway into punk rock, pop punk, whatever it is. Just go listen to it again if you haven't in a while. It's a great record, and I felt back in love with it when we were gonna do this episode. Now I'm gonna really switch it up. I'm gonna do a record that I feel like nobody really gives love to. And it's so sad. My next one, I'm gonna go Watch Out by Alexisonfire. I gotta talk about this one. Justine, I don't know. Did you like this record?
I honestly never got into the band,
Well,
like, at
see
all. So
see? Okay, so I'm gonna take us all on the journey, okay? Like, but this record, I just feel like, again, it doesn't get enough love, and any podcast I see that does 20 years, they skip this record, so we're not skipping this record. I love this record so fucking much. I truly believe that for the timeline, it was the perfect record if we were into those dual vocals of screaming and then this beautiful voice of Dallas Green. And if you weren't or aren't aware, he is the frontman of City and Color. Please go listen to City and Color. Literally the voice of an angel. And if you don't need to hear my rant on City and Color on our fall records episode, no one needs to hear that. But go check it out. I'm telling you, this is how I fell in love with Dallas Green was from Alexis on Fire. And I followed him and I will follow him to like whatever the hell he does in life. And the nicest person ever, which I got to meet. Oh my God. But anyways, back to this record. I feel again, much like Underoath from first to last, Every Time I Die, Boys Night Out, just so many of them tapped into that aggressive music I was growing to love based off of like being involved in my scene, which was a lot of pop punk and hardcore bands. It just was everywhere, and I appreciated it so much. The cover 100% grabbed me. I love this cover. I think it's so cool. It's so great. It's like a comic book thing. Honestly, if you're listening to this right now, just look at the freaking picture. You'll see it. Um, I don't know why I'm telling you to go anywhere because you'll see it. But this record, it just opens with the song Accidents, which takes you on this journey. And truly, again, these opening tracks just grabbing me. Every single record has an opening track that grabs you. So I think there was something going on there. Again, I wonder if my parents were like listening to this, like, what the hell is this? Like I found on Pure Volume and I don't know. It just led me down this path. And Happiness by Kilowatt is one of my all-time favorites by them. Nothing beats it, and you would never change my mind that it should be on a top 10 list of Alexis on Fire tracks. We've got oh gosh, I got my list of all these because they're gonna go like, oh, no Transitory because it's another one where we get this powerful Dallas vocal, which I think really set Alexis on Fire apart from so many bands trying to do it because they just did it effortlessly and they still do it and easily. Just one of my favorite bands to watch live for that reason. I think so many have tried that dual vocal and it hasn't quite worked, but Alexis just, chef's kiss. The last one too, I'm gonna say, like, "Hey, it's your funeral, mama." Literally, the opening guitar riffs, there's just something special about this one, and I still can't put my finger on it. I listened to, like, over and over before we recorded, and I know this record and style isn't for everyone, but honestly, if you get it, you get it. It's a special band to the scene and my life, and there will never be another Alexisonfire as much as anyone wants to try. Please, if you love this band, let me know. I need more people that appreciate this band. I just fucking love Alexisonfire so much, and just anytime I can see them, I will see them, and I will vouch for them, and again, they're so sweethearts. I met them at Warped Tour in, like, 2009, and I purposely waited by the gate like a little girl, like, "Oh my god, I need to meet you." Nicest people ever, but I would ask you your thoughts, Justine, but you just
I'm
clearly
so
said,
sorry.
like but that's okay,
I have nothing to contribute.
but I think you're not alone in that because when I was posting about this, like, there's maybe 1 or 2 people that said this record, and I'm like, "Guys, they're so good." And I will just again, like, even if you take anything from this and you go listen to City in Color, go listen to City in Color. And I guess, wow, we're already at the end. I guess we're talking about a record I didn't even think about was turning 20 because Spotify kept telling me it was 2005, and I was like, "No, it's 2004." And I had to, like, do some digging, and I was like, well, the band basically posted on their Instagram. They wouldn't post that it was turning 20 and do a
Yeah.
20-year tour if it wasn't turning 20 people. Because I had a couple people in my DMs, "That one doesn't turn 20." Yes, it does. So, we're gonna talk about Is a Real Boy. And Justine, I gotta hear because this is one you said right away. You were
Yeah.
like, I love this. I love Say Anything. What are your thoughts on Is a Real Boy?
So I've always just absolutely loved them. Okay. For me, I still go on comfort binges of playing their music. And before anybody comes for me, yes, they have a lot of songs that are very problematic with
Yeah.
themes and sayings. But the energy from their songs can just pick me up and out of the dark mood.
Mhm.
Um, and I have seen them live, and the energy is still felt in person. So, of course, well, I can get sexual too, which it's horrible with lyrics, okay? I'm sorry, but I can't help but get in a great mood when I hear it. As soon as you hear the
Oh,
phone ringing,
100%.
you know that it's gonna start and it's gonna be
Yeah.
great. And I also love the song Metal Now, and again, trigger warning with those lyrics. But
Yeah.
I like to put that one on whenever I'm angry, but I need, like, instead of, like, something making me, like, angry when I'm listening to music, you know what I mean? I
Mhm.
put that one on because it's, like, it's angry but happy angry sounding. Their Spider song, and
Yes.
also, my favorite is also Yellow Cat/Red Slash Red Cat.
Yes. Oh my god. I have a funny story about that song is I saw them on Halloween, and I had a yellow headband, and I had cat ears, I made it, and my one friend was red cat, I was yellow cat, and so they were red, so red and yellow cat, and literally, I went up to someone, and they're like, "Are you Pikachu?" And I was like,
Oh,
and the one person to come up to me or not come up to me because I went up to them, let's be real, but it was Saves the Day, and I went up to Chris
yeah.
Conley, and I got to meet him, and he was like, "Oh, I love your costume. I love the take, yellow cat, red cat. I love it." I was like, "Thank
Yeah,
you. Thank you, sir. Thank you that, like, you, Chris Conley of Saves the Day, get my costume." I love
of
that
course
song
you
too.
would.
Yeah. I don't know, any other thoughts on this record at all?
No, it's good. I love it. I like,
Let's leave it
again,
there.
just the band as a whole, love it.
I
Um,
yeah, it's and it I feel like knowing you even listening to this record, I'd be like, this is a Justine record."
I've seen other people talk about it when it comes to, like, Say Anything and a bunch of, like, other bands from the scene where it's like, I'm a feminist, but for
Right,
whatever
yeah.
reason, the feminist in me and like, everything, like, political correctness, everything goes out the window with certain bands as millennials that we listen to, and this is one of those bands.
Yeah.
I even, like, because I love, oh, what's the one that had the 2 albums? I can't remember the
Oh,
name of
in the
that.
defense of the genre.
Yes, there's a song with the R word in it, and, like, I'm
Yeah.
very advocating of not saying that word, like,
Mm,
especially as millennials, we said it all the time,
right.
um, but I really liked that song,
No, I'm with you, like,
and
that's
it's
like
just,
oh, "Retarded in Love," and
yes.
please no one cancel me. I know that that's That's the
Yes, that's
song,
why
but
I say R word because I
I
really
know,
try
I
not
need
to say
to
it
I
anymore.
know, I can't believe well,
Um, yeah,
everybody, just give me some grace. I'm on a lot of medication
yeah,
right now with my
please
sickness. I'm sorry. Give me some grace. I'm sorry.
don't cancel her. But I think she was also just trying to make sure you knew because like some people don't say like don't still don't refer to her as a slur, but it is
No.
as
Yes.
somebody who has autism, among other things, the R word is a slur. So if you are still saying it, you need to stop.
No.
And as
Yeah.
a millennial, I understand because like we said it all the time for
All the
everything,
time.
all the time. Just like saying how we used to say gay for everything that
Ye
wasn't
Oh my
in
god.
reference to it.
But, like, man, this was one admittedly I had to go back and listen. And I think I even texted you the other day. I
Yeah.
was like, "Damn, out of all the records, I fucking love this record." I
Yeah.
love this record so much. I think I forgot how much I love this record until I really dove back in. And I kind of fell apart from Say Anything a little bit, but like this record, I mean, the opening track is just so good. Belt. You have
Yeah.
this record begins with a song of rebellion. And I just think you knew you were getting something different, and one thing and anything I've seen Max Bemis, who's the lead singer, if anyone's not familiar, talks about is how they wanted to create something that was different, that people around them weren't sick of, like all the pop punk or the indie and all this, the emo, whatever you wanna call it, and they absolutely did. Like, Say
Hmm.
Anything was like,
They stood out from the crowd.
you could not really define them in anything. Like, it was like
Yeah.
one of those things, and I think
I think
for a
that's why
while
I still gravitate towards them a lot too.
yeah,
Because their sound was so different from the
yeah.
time, but even I still kind of think they stand out now even to a certain extent. That's why I love them.
No, they
Like,
do, they totally do, and I think for a while I couldn't listen to them because I had an ex-boyfriend that was, like, obsessed with them, and we would go see them play, and, we met
yeah.
them together, and it was just a weird thing. We had a song that, like, was our song, and I was like, "I can't listen to this." But, like, now,
Yeah.
it's like I'm in that place, and I think anyone can relate to that too, that it's interesting to look back on the connection with music that sometimes and I know we've talked
Yeah.
about it too, and Say
I was gonna
Anything
say
was
we've talked about it a lot
like
with
one of
different
those
bands.
bands,
Mhm.
and Max Bemis, I think when we talk about mental health, Max Bemis has been so open from almost the beginning about his mental health and his bipolar
Yeah.
diagnosis and being on medication and off medication and through this and through that. And I think it just also shows what a long way we've come because I remember when Max was open about a manic episode he had that involved traffic and people were labeling him crazy. And like,
Mhm.
let's please just
People did
stop
for a
that.
while. Uh-huh.
And I think it just yeah, and I think looking back at that now and people still have things to say about him when he's going through something, and I think we just have to realize that and, just stop that. We're in 2024, no one's like, "Stop," and
Yeah.
I think this record also was just it was actually gonna be a musical, and I think that's what Max Bemis said in an interview. I was doing a little bit
I
of
could see that.
research, and he wanted it to be that, and but with the indie budget they had and how it got arranged in a certain order, the concept was connected to Max's life and his mental illness, and I thought that was really cool, and I could totally see this as a musical, like, I could
Yeah.
totally kinda like how they dress too, you could like, it kinda reminds me of, like, Book of Mormon,
Yeah.
which, oh my god, if anyone has not seen that, you need to go see Book of Mormon, like, side note, but it just reminds me of how the way they dressed in their little white and their ties and stuff, Say Anything would like, if you went to go see them live sometimes, and again, like, I just will never forget when I was going through that breakup that I was going through. I did what any teenager not teenager, but young one would do. I went on Twitter and I tweeted to Max Bemis when I was listening to Say Anything about his music and how it was getting me through shit, and he had told me to stay strong and a heart emoji, and I'll never forget that. So Max Bemis, if you're somehow listening to this, thank you for
Yeah.
that because that you're a good dude. You're a good dude for that.
Yeah. I mean, I would love to have him on the show if
Oh
it'd be
my god.
possible.
I've
That
been
would
trying. Full
that'd
disclosure,
be
I think
wonderful.
I never wanna talk about
I would
it.
love him, and I also love his wife, Sherry, because
Yes.
I love Isley.
Oh,
Um,
same here. That's another
yeah,
underrated, and I think
absolutely.
I've tried to admittedly get Max Bemis. I'm just gonna put it out. I usually don't say, like, who we're trying to get. I admittedly have because, I think he would be wonderful. So, somehow I think
Yeah,
bucket list right there. And I think,
exactly.
um, I just love this record, and I just think, like, my favorite tracks, "Wow, It Can Get Sexual Too," which again, like,
It's one of those things, if you got to
whatever.
say anything, how can you leave that out?
Right, "Alive with the Glory of Love," when he's like, "When I," and, like, I have, like, such a shitty voice right now, but like, "When I do you right where you're standing." Yeah, right on the foyer. Anyways, you know the song, I'm not gonna go into it, but that is so it's just, again, questionable for a girl. Again, they're very
Yeah,
misogynistic a little
it
bit, but I was all
is one of
in.
those
I
bands.
was all in. Spider
Like,
song, Every Man Has a Molly, I Wanna Know Your Plans, A Walk Through Hell, The Feudal, and I think it just and I gotta throw this out there because I don't know if anyone's aware of this, but Say Anything obviously is a Max Bemis. He makes his comic book. He has a comic book called Polarity, and it basically is follows it's a manic depressive spin on the superhero genre. So there's this character, Timothy Woods. He's a bipolar artist stuck in a world of hipsters, meaningless sex, and vain art. Oh, how does that sound? Like not to be, but better known as Brooklyn. But after he survives a near fatal car accident, Timothy discovers that his mental instability is more than a disorder, and that it's his bipolar medication hasn't just been subduing his depression, and mania, but it's been suppressing his superpowers. And, he stands up to it, stands up to bipolar, and it's really cool. Like, I was like, I knew that Max was into the comic book world, and polarity, but like, I think that's super cool. So if you're into comic books and you haven't read this, like, I wanna go read this. I think this is, like, super cool, and I think it sounds a lot like Max Bemis personally. I don't know him,
it
but,
does.
I
I was
could
gonna say,
see.
when you're describing it, I'm like, "Yeah, this all seems on brand."
Yeah, and it's like basically, it's a four-issue limited series along with an exclusive acoustic four-song EP composed and recorded specifically as a companion to the graphic novel. Okay, I'm in, I'm sold. I gotta go on Amazon after this, but or wherever it's sold. I need to get this. Yeah, damn, like, this record is just so, so good, and I think Say Anything was for a specific type of person, and maybe because I was going to art school, and I just fit that, person that liked it. I was really
Yeah,
fortunate too. I saw them in a super tiny venue in Chicago, like, before they were really, I guess, big, whatever you wanna say, and I will tell you, it was one of the sweatiest, craziest shows I've ever been into, and I was literally like, "This is insane, and I need to be a part of this," and I just adore this band, and I think I just have whether you like Max Bemis or not personally, I think
yeah,
again, what he's doing for mental health and being open about his experience of mania that so many people wanna say things about. Again, Max Bemis, please come on here. I've been trying. I don't have the resources, and this podcast isn't about getting all these big names, but damn, Max Bemis would be hands down somebody that
yeah.
would
That's
be so
definitely, like,
great to talk to, and I'm trying.
goals right there. Oh, yeah.
I'm trying because I love you so much too, and I wanna thank you for your tweet. All that aside though, but, like, again, some we didn't cover. I know they're loved by so many, and again, maybe down the road, we'll do something. Jimmy Eat World Futures, I know I didn't cover that one. Someone might say that because it's my all-time favorite Jimmy Eat World record. I love Futures. I think it's so underrated. I don't know, maybe I'll hop on. I don't know, tell me if you want, like, to hear some, like, little tiny solo episode on Futures. I'll give it to you because I love that record. Catalyst, NFG, New Found Glory, such an important band I know in my life. I'm working on getting a friend of mine on because I know Justine, sadly, I know this is not one that
I'm sorry.
resonated with
I'm
you.
so
That's
sorry.
okay, but I'm sure you're not alone in that, and I feel like if I'm gonna do it, I gotta do it, not my
Yeah,
no one wants to
that's
just hear me talk
that's what
about
I
it.
was saying too. I was like, "You should get on with your friend that's a huge
Oh my god,
NFG fan.
he's like a
It would
super
make more
fan.
sense." Yeah.
So I will have that, and then Senses Fail, Let It Enfold You. I love Buddy Nielsen, he's another guy,
Oh,
please.
love him.
Somehow, Buddy, somehow. Love that record. It just again, I don't know, to fit them all in, but we'll figure it out. But, like, it was just so wild to look back at these records. They're turning 20. It is insane. I hope you enjoyed this because, like, it was so much fun to look back at this, and I would love again, like, comment us, let us know, what are your favorite songs? What's your favorite one out of these? Because It's just wild to go back to this time and be like, "Wow, we're all old." But, like, the thing is these songs and these records are still so important to us, so I think that says so much about the records and the bands that they're still coming around, and we have When We Were Young, and so, so good, and we appreciate everyone listening, and next week, we have a really great episode. We have the lead singer of a tribute covered band, the Warped Band. Do not miss this one. This was such a good conversation. We talked about Warped
Yeah.
Tour. We talked about so much stuff. Drew was amazing. I loved him so much, and you're gonna hear a flub, um, of one of my favorite records that I messed up, because it was just hilarious. I loved having him on, and I'm like it just still when I was editing that episode, I was like, "Oh my god, this" but it's such a great episode, and I can't wait for Drew's episode to come out, and as always, if you guys wanna come on our show and talk about your importance of music and your mental health journey, hit us up. I know I keep posting shit like that, like, "Hey, talk to us." I know it's hard sometimes to maybe reach out, because there's some people in mind I would love to ask, but, like, I don't know if you wanna come on, so you gotta let me know.
Yeah.
You gotta let me know. I don't wanna be that person, so let us know. Let Justine know, but we will see you guys next Tuesday with that Drew Zimmerman conversation of the Warped Band. So excited. We hope you enjoyed this one, and we will see you guys next Tuesday. Alright, bye, guys.
Bye.